Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Mr. Saucedo's biology videos. Today we're going to be talking about an introduction to biology. So the main question that we're going to be looking at today is, how does biology affect your life? And if you were in class, it would be a little different, but I'll give you an idea of how that would have gone if you were in class. So first, let's talk about some definitions. So we'll talk about science. So when people think of science, they normally think of test tubes, explosions, Erlenmeyer flasks, and a lot of stuff like that. So science, though, is an organized way of gathering and analyzing evidence about the natural world. So there are set procedures, let's say, in place. And the way you collect your evidence is up to you. What kind of evidence you collect is up to you. But then you normally, after collecting your evidence, will make a claim about something. So the evidence will lead you in a direction that you'd be able to, kind of either prove a claim or disprove a claim. And you connect that all together using science, by gathering and analyzing data about the natural world. Your reasoning includes all of that science. So something else people think when they think of science is just sort of like it's in a book. You just memorize a bunch of facts, and that's all that science is. And that's kind of the opposite of what science is. Science is a process, and it's a process that helps you solve problems. And these problems are about the natural world. So they're about, everything that the natural world contains. So what is biology? Biology is the study of living things. It's the branch of science that specializes specifically in living things. And bios means life, logos means study. So it is literally the study of life. Living things are literally everywhere you can possibly imagine. And so because they're everywhere and come in every shape and every size you can imagine, then biologists have a huge job in specializing in particular areas of living things, or specific areas that involve living things and anything that affects them. Now, biologists, obviously, then, if you're a biologist, you're studying biology, you are the type of scientist that will be specializing in specifically living things. So, I don't know why it froze, but largest living animal. Take a guess, and if you want to leave a comment, what do you think the largest living animal is? I don't know why it paused midway through, but there you go. What about the smallest vertebrate? Any idea what the smallest vertebrate is? Or perhaps the oldest living individual organism? I don't actually think, and that's really pixelated. Wow, that looks really bad. I think that might be the second oldest living individual organism in the picture, at least at the time of this recording. If it died, that would be kind of depressing. Shortest lifespan of any organism. And then, last but not least, how does biology affect your everyday life then? In class, we would have a whole discussion, and then we would actually go through kind of weeding out the top four. So just think on your own, though. What are 4 ways that the study of living things affects your everyday life? And I guess the pictures are meant to give you maybe a hint if you can't think of a couple of them. And now, here's the last part. So organisms are individual living things, and all living things have the following 7 characteristics. And so when we talk about viruses and bacteria and stuff like that, when we end up talking about viruses, this is the reason why viruses are not considered living things. But let's see if you can get them. So let's see if you can just figure out what those might be. So the first, they're made up of cells. So all living things have to at least be made up of a single cell. Number 2, they obtain and use energy. Now, the way in which they obtain and use energy, totally different. You've got photosynthetic plants and bacteria. You've got consumers like us. Universal genetic code, in other words, DNA. So all living things have DNA. All living things use DNA to store their genetic material. They grow and reproduce. And yeah, I know that, this is kind of like a cheat in including this and this, but growth and reproduction are essential. So growth meaning that they, will grow in size, either meaning even bacteria, they will, they'll start off tinier, grow, and then when they double in size, they pinch themselves off and form a little clone of themselves, basically, through asexual reproduction. And reproduce, there we go. Adapt, they adapt to change over time. They respond to their environment, meaning that they respond to external things. So in some cases, that could literally be to poking, like you poke them, they move around or something. It could be that they go away from light or towards light. Could be that they are drawn towards particular chemical tracers, like food sources and stuff like that. And then last but not least, they stabilize their internal conditions. So we call that homeostasis. And so that means that they try to maintain the same conditions inside of their cells. And so it's both cougars, and that's how we will remember that. All right, so that was it for our first lesson. If you have any questions, let me know.